If you are not living the life that you desire, then you are not fixing your reflection first. That's what you think of yourself. If you think that you're less than, that you're not enough, that's what you will attract to yourself. Those people, situations, circumstances that will not serve you, but will contribute to living a life of default because it's not what you want. Fixing reflection first is by far crucial into living the life that you desire. That's how you are an alchemist.
Welcome to another episode of You Must Be Out of Your Mind. And today we have Rhonda Farrah with us. And I've asked her if she can maybe share with us some of the practices she's involved with and what she does. Sounds absolutely fascinating. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. So Rhonda, would you mind? And welcome to You Must Be Out of Your Mind.
Well, thank you for welcoming me to I am possibly out of my mind. So it's good to be here, Dr. Don. Thank you for the invitation to appear on your podcast. And I'm often asked, well, what is a lifestyle empowerment alchemist? So I'm an alchemist, I'm a coach, I'm a writer, and I'm a speaker. Now, alchemy is the medieval forerunner of chemistry. And I'm not a science left brain person. However, alchemy is indeed the medieval forerunner, the precursor of chemistry. So as an alchemist, I help people transform adversity, sorrow, whatever's going on in their life, that not so good stuff, change it into a form where they can ascertain what are the gifts and the blessings of this situation, okay? Because we all call it forward, which is another point of contention and another story. Joys and sorrows are in and of themselves the strengths within us, and they give us the strength and the power to live the life that we desire, the life that we want, rather than year after year living life in default mode and settling for less. So with my clients and audiences, I get to help those who wish to help themselves. And I literally mean that, because I cannot want for someone what they do not want for themselves. And I'm sure you agree with that in your practice. That's where we start. What do you want for yourself? What do you want in your life? And oftentimes we can take two steps back and say, well, what don't you want? If you really don't know what you want, then do you know what you don't want? And of course, they always know what they don't want. So I'm passionate, I'm dedicated to awakening hearts, minds, and especially spirit to our innate power from within that will indeed let us and promote the life that we desire. Again, rather than being in default mode. I am here to be of service to those who wish to be in service to themselves, because that's where it starts.
Rhonda, I say the same kind of thing is, healing is an inside job.
There you go. You took the words right out of my mouth. Healing is an inside job. And I'm not here to convince anyone that they need to do that inside job if they're not ready to do it, because they're not going to have the results that they desire. So let's take that lifestyle empowerment alchemist. Our lifestyle is everything in our life, our health, our purpose, our relationships, our sense of self. So that would include relationship with ourself, our sense of self. And although we live in an immediate gratification society, which I like immediate gratification too, living the life that we desire is a process. Living that lifestyle is a process. And we become conscious of that when we take responsibility. It's our life. We're responsible for our goodness. So understand that, first of all. And I'm an advocate, and don't concern yourself with what people think of you. Concern yourself with what you think of yourself. And it has served me, it has served my clients, it has served my audiences. So become conscious that it's your responsibility to live the life that you want, to live the goodness. And you will call that forward. Now, empowerment. Okay, empowerment is, again, our authentic power from within. We all have it. I call it my godling self, not merely my earthling self. That higher self within me, that intuitive self where I know really what I want. Sometimes it's hard to get that out, but I do know what I want because I have that authentic power from within. So regardless of situation, circumstance, happenstance, or event, and I've had some of that not so good stuff in my life, we can live the life that we desire rather than settling for anything less. So there we have lifestyle, we have empowerment, now alchemist. I talked a little bit about that when we began. We are the author, we're the developer, we're the artist of our life. We get to choose, literally. We get to choose even when we think, what am I going to do? I have no choice in this matter. Yes, you do. And again, I think you'll agree that to not choose is to choose. You've made a choice. When we find ourselves in situations that are that not so good stuff that we hadn't planned on, I believe it's called life, people say, well, how am I ever going to bounce back from this? Whether it's a health issue, a financial issue, divorce, believe me, I know. So I don't bounce back. I bounce forward. And I help people bounce forward and take that adversity, take that not so good stuff, and do just that. There you have it. Lifestyle Empowerment Alchemist.
Very good. I like it.
So I'll go one step further and to say, if you are not living the life that you desire, then you are not fixing your reflection first. That's what you think of yourself. If you think that you're less than, that you're not enough, that's what you will attract to yourself. Those people, situations, circumstances that will not serve you, but will contribute to living a life of default because it's not what you want. Fixing reflection first is by far crucial into living the life that you desire. That's how you are an alchemist. You take that not so good stuff, that adversity, that sorrow, we all have it going on, and I have compassion for everyone that has had that in their life and will possibly have it in the future. But take it and find a gift. Find a blessing in that. In some cases, our sorrows, the adversity that happens to us, I have said in a couple of cases, well, I didn't think it was a blessing, but I sure dodged a bullet when this didn't happen the way I thought it would happen. And it's very basic, it's simple, but it's not always easy. Look in the mirror and do you like what you see? Do you like whom you see?
A lot of times though, and tell me if you have this kind of experience as well, that a lot of the times when people come in and have that kind of feeling of not good enough, not smart enough, whatever, is coming in a lot of times from trauma that they've experienced earlier. And then that creates that mindset that they can't do it. And that's what I specialize in, is to get that rebooted, right? Reset that so that it's a lot easier to do it. As long as that's running through in the background, it's going to have an effect on the way their mind is working.
Yes.
So let's reboot it. Just like a computer, it's stuck.
Just like it's stuck. And when you're stuck there, you do need rebooting. And the first step is to say, I am going to fix my reflection first. I am going to reboot. I need help. I need help rebooting. And there's no shame in that. That's a strength. That's a power. To find the blessing in, trauma can be a blessing. Trauma can be a blessing because you are now you're saying, I want out of this. I need a way out of this. And you, Dr. Don, show up. Okay, they still have to buy in, so to speak, with respect to, yes, I invested in releasing, getting unstuck from whatever trauma I've been facing, possibly for decades.
Right.
So I totally agree with that. I will ask you, when you use that word trauma, because being a former psychotherapist and now a coach, trauma is often a very intimidating word.
Yeah. So I have two different ways. I talk about the big T trauma, the obvious stuff that people know about. But I wrote my second book and I called it Emotional Concussions because it's an emotional concussion. It may not be a big T trauma, but it has an effect, just like a physical concussion on your brain may not damage your brain, but it's going to have an effect for some period of time as long as that brain stays concussed. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, get the healing to start so that the brain can heal. And the same thing with the mind, right? So I talk about the brain as the physical, the mind as the software. So the computer is the brain and the mind is the software running inside the computer. So just like a computer is prone to, physical damage if you drop it, your brain is, also capable of physical damage if it gets dropped, and that will affect the way it's operating. But the software is prone to glitches and error messages. And that's what I talk about, is that these emotional concussions will then create a software glitch. And so we just have to get in and reboot the system.
And I want to ask you, when I use that word trauma, whether it's been abusive relationships, whether it's been health issues and not being accepted by people that we love, people that we like, do you meet with some resistance? Because I know I do, with respect to, because I say, you are whole, perfect, and complete just the way you are. But there's some layers of this onion skin that we need to peel away. That's trauma, so that we can get to your authentic power from within. What is your reaction with clients?
I will periodically come up with, people will say, oh, I haven't had any trauma. So if they've had trauma, they're pretty open about it. I find in most cases, they'll say, yes, I've had trauma. Or what I'll hear is, well, I haven't had any trauma. But they're not, that's why I use the emotional concussions, because maybe they define it that way. It's not changing their life altogether, but they are having an effect. And so either one will work. Because I'll have people who've come in from some of the biggest thing, the Boston Marathon, the Vegas shooting, things like that. Those are obvious big T kind of traumas. But if they see somebody on one of our testimonials like that, they'll go, oh, I haven't anything like that. I never was involved in a bombing. I wasn't involved in a war or anything like that. So tell me what you experienced. And it's surprising how many people come back and don't think childhood abuse was trauma. Right? My dad used to beat me all the time, and that toughened me up and it made me stronger. Right? And that's how they sort of justify it. And, what I talk about is, no, it's not really accurate. You don't beat up children. Right? And that's not what you're supposed to do, because your whole world revolves around these adults and you're counting on them for survival. So if they're threatening your survival, even though they think, well, that's what my dad did to me, or that's what my mom did to me, is he used to whip me. I can tell you, I grew up never being struck in my life. My parents never touched me. My brother and sister and I never got hit, never got yelled at, never got, and we're pretty responsible people.
Yes.
It wasn't necessary to do that. But if that's how you're brought up, and you think that is what worked on me, maybe you just need some education as to there's a better way to do it.
Exactly. And you don't need to accept whatever has been in your life. Some people call it, I come from a dysfunctional family. Well, probably better than 85% come from dysfunction in one way or another. And again, coming from living in an extended family with 13 people in the household through third grade, largely influenced by women in that household. There was this sense of nurturance. There was this sense of love and compassion. And if I share that story with someone, sometimes they say, well, you were lucky. Well, talk to me about that. How were you not lucky?
Yeah.
Don't hold it in. The worst thing that we can do is hold those emotions in. Stop holding them in. Let them come out. You can be sad. You can be angry. You could be resentful. Okay, let them come out, because you're going to keep pushing them down until they erupt at the most inopportune moments in life. And there is a way. Sometimes it's not a quick fix, but there is a way, if you're willing, to get rid of that, as you say, trauma, to get unstuck from it. And it may seep out here and there after you think you're unstuck, but that's okay. There's just a little more peel away of that onion skin so you can be the person that you desire, the person that you want to be. I know with clients and audiences, for me, it's, oh, well, what are you peeling away? I said, well, what do you want to peel away?
What benefits you?
Yeah, what benefits you? And again, well, what do you think? Some people will say that to me. What do you think I should do? I said, well, what do you think you should do? I think you should do what you think you should do. Right. And it becomes that kind of dialogue because, again, immediate gratification society. And the biggest thing I advocate with this fixing our reflection first, look in the mirror, see, who is that? Do I like what I see? Okay. Well, even if you don't, be gentle with yourself. Practice some self-care, practice some self-love. I know as women, oftentimes, we're very nurturing to everyone around us, yet we don't practice that self-love and self-care. And being a breast cancer thriver, I learned that the incidence of breast cancer in women is because we don't nourish and nurture ourselves.
I also say that the world is not as safe for women as it is for men. So the stress on women, men need to understand this, that I can walk outside my office building at 10 o'clock at night and walk straight to my car. I'm not worried about that. No woman in that building can do that, not unless she's not paying attention. But she's going to, before she walks out that door, she's going to make sure, is there anybody outside that door? Is there anybody in a car close to my car? Is there any threat that's existing? You, as women, Rhonda, you have been doing this your entire life.
That's my software, right? That's my software.
That stress is unbelievable. And that's why we have to teach our young men, right, on how to respect. My mom my dad, I mean, would never, ever let me be even rude to my mother. I would be absolutely stopped. And I'll give you an example here where he did do it one time, and I never really did it ever again. But I said something just flippant to my mom. I said something like, okay, whatever, right? Like I didn't yell, I didn't raise my voice, right? And he immediately stopped me. I didn't know he was even there. He stopped me and he says, she may be your mother, but she's my wife. And I don't allow anybody to speak to my wife like that. Now stop it. I mean, what a lesson, right? For a young man to hear, right?
Yes.
You can't talk to her like that. I won't allow it. Right. And that got my attention. And again, I wasn't yelling or what I would even have considered rude, but he drew a line that was a very, very close line and said, no, you can't cross that. Not only, with your mother, but with my wife or with anybody else. And that served me very well.
Served you, and it was point blank, but he didn't give you a slap. That is parenting. That's what I would call parenting.
Perfect parents. My parents were amazing parents, and nobody's perfect. But my brother and sister and I can't remember them even arguing. That's a very unique world to grow up in, but it really helped regulate my nervous system. So I could get bumped by a friend, a coach, a teacher, or whatever. But as soon as I came back into my world, into my home or around my family, I felt safe. So I lived my whole life feeling safe.
And that's what it's about, to know that stability, to know that safety, and then to understand that we have that, each of us within us, but because of what we've been through in the past. The past is, I call it the blank check. Okay. Can't just forgive the past one way or another. We'll talk about that in just a second. The future, it hasn't happened yet, but the present is what we have, and how we behave in the present will determine what is about to happen for us, will determine whether it's default mode again another year or living a life that is at least resembling what we want.
I even say something a little different too with the past. When somebody says, well, that happened in the past. And I said, the past doesn't exist. The past is information about something that happened, but it doesn't exist. Where is it right now? Well, it's nowhere, right? So if it doesn't exist, right, why do you keep referring to it as something that's happening, right? Well, that happened to me in the past. So your mind, as you know, how does the mind's literal? There must be a place called the past and something's happening. No, there's nothing called the past and it doesn't exist. What do we need to do about World War II? Nothing. Better it never happened, right? So we're not happy about it. We're not going for happy. We're just trying to stop the dysregulation of our nervous system. So if you think about something that happened to you 20 years ago and you're constantly talking about it and you're fearful or angry or whatever the emotion is, right? It's a glitch. It's an error message. You don't need to be feeling that, right? It serves no purpose. So then you're not present. So if you're not present, you're in the past or in the future. So you've either got depression or you got anxiety or you got whatever because you're stuck.
You're stuck.
Let's get you out of being stuck.
That's an excellent point. And that was probably began in my subconscious mind, but that was one thing that pivoted me from being a psychotherapist in kind of old school. Okay. I don't want to talk with you, I would say to a client, about the last 10 or 20 years of what you would consider a lousy life. Because all we're doing is reinforcing that. We're now reinforcing your trauma.
And that's what I do the opposite. I basically work on 3 different events in their lifetime. And I ask for, if that event was a movie, I need the movie trailer. All I need you to do is give me the movie trailer, right? You can put as much information into that 2-minute movie trailer as you want, but that's all I need. So I had one lady come in one time and she spent the first 15 minutes telling me everything that happened in her life. And so when she finished, I said to her, do you have anything else? And she sort of looked at me and sort of smiled. She goes, well, that was a lot, don't you think? And I said, oh, absolutely. It was a lot. I said, however, for the last 15 minutes, I've learned a lot about what happened to you, but I haven't learned anything about you. So let's start talking about you now.
And the other thing too is oftentimes clients, not me really, because I live and breathe this, but they are really good at saying everything that's going wrong, everything that they do not like. And I will, after that 15 minutes, as a psychotherapist, I would say, well, is there anything that you do like? Is anything good happening for you? Can you name one thing? Now, there is no 15 minutes. We want to work together? Okay. You've just spent 15 minutes with me to ascertain whether we're going to work together or not.
Right.
I'm going to stop you right there. I don't want to use your 15 minutes. Name for me one good thing in your life right now. Name for me one thing that you like about yourself. If they can, we're probably on the road to developing a relationship and moving forward. If they can't, my heart goes out to them, but we're not meant to. At least it's not time. Go back and write a list and read the list every day. What is something good about you? There's got to be something good.
Yeah, and just identify it.
Yeah, just identify it. So that's a big part of what I do, ascertaining with the client, with the audience. What do you like? Is there anything that you like about yourself? And when we can do that, then we have some strength and some fortitude to move forward in the areas that they want to improve. And, when someone says to me, I just had a session with you and nothing has changed. And this was a particular situation with a mother with a really terrible relationship, very toxic and unhealthy relationship with her daughter. And when I asked, okay, we've been together actually an hour and a half. How long did it take you and your daughter to get to this point, to have this type of relationship that you really don't like? And I would call it unhealthy. How long did that take? Oh my God, it took years. And I looked at her and I said, I'm good, but it's going to take more than an hour and a half for you to get, and I use that word, unstuck. And the other thing, no one has to change but you. It's your responsibility to change. Because when we don't like things that are happening in our life, change. Make some change within yourself and then watch things start changing around you. I deal mostly with women and toxic, unhealthy relationships, whether it's spouses, partners, husbands, wives, children. And I have to remind them, no, they don't have to do anything. What do you want to do? Because you have that power to affect yourself. Well, I don't want to do anything. I just want everything to be all right. Well, it's kind of not the way it works. That stuckedness, that trauma, everybody has a way of dealing with it. I have had my share of clients that it's the pink elephant in the room. Yeah. And they refuse, to understand that. I've been in relationships where my partner is refusing to understand that this is a pink elephant. Let's just talk about it, whether it's good or not so good. Let's just talk about it. You're not going to say anything that shocks me.
That's sometimes hard for people to do, though, to talk about it because they never were trained to talk about it.
No, you're right. It's best left unsaid, and the trauma can exist, and we'll just go on our merry way. Until they get a little taste of, well, this is how my life could be. And that's frightening.
So what I usually do as well is one of the things I'll say is the key to us being successful together is intention. And what I mean by intention is I have a very strong intention of what I have planned for you. All you have to do is get on board with the intention and we'll be fine. We'll just move on, right? But it takes intention to make something different. It just doesn't happen. You have to have some intention and you have to be willing to do some of the process that we're going to go through. And as long as you're willing to use that intention for what you're looking for, then we'll succeed. You have to. It's just science. It's just the way the mind works.
That's the way the mind works. And the mind, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. But decide, choose. So I'm also often asked, so what is a lifestyle that's empowered? How do you live an empowered life? I said, don't worry, I have a formula. Because not being a scientist, but my formula is gratitude plus forgiveness equals living an empowered life, living the life that you desire, living the life that you want. I'm grateful for everything. Well, can you name 3 things?
Right.
Well, I don't know. I said, no, you must name 3 things. And I would like you actually to write them down. Here, take 60 seconds and write them down. Because 95% of the world learns visually. So here, write them down. Okay. And that's a chore. Looking in the mirror becomes easy and deciding whether you like it or not. But being grateful. Well, I don't know what you mean. I said, well, let me give you an example. I'm grateful because I wake up in the morning. I'm grateful because I can hear birds singing. I can look at my garden.
Yeah.
I can have a cup of coffee. Well, that's silly. I go, not to me. Are you grateful for any of those things? And it becomes this almost like a competition. Well, you can be grateful because you got it made, this, that. I go, no, I can be grateful because I'm present to what's going on in my life. And then they get the gist of it. Are you grateful? Oh, I got to go to my lousy job. I said, well, okay, but that's a blessing because now you know you have a lousy job, or you think you do. What would you like to do about it? You have choices. The gratitude thing is big with me, and it's one thing that's going to make you or break you. No questions about it. And the other part of that formula is forgiveness. I have several relatives that say, I could never forgive him. How can you? And I say, well, here's the thing. Forgiveness and non-forgiveness is either helping or hurting you, not that person. I said, really? Science proves that. If you are carrying resentment and non-forgiveness, you're doing more to your insides than you can even imagine. And that is probably contributing to possibly some ill health and ill well-being, ill not being that you may have. So to forgive someone, and start with yourself. Start with yourself. Look in the mirror. I forgive you. I forgive you for A, B, and C. An exercise I use with forgiveness is to write a letter. Some people look at me like, don't worry, you don't have to send it to the person you're forgiving. You don't have to send it, but I want you to write the letter because remember, 95% of the world learns visually. Let's start with yourself. Write yourself a letter. Dear self, I've been meaning to write to you for some time. How are you? First of all, how are you? New paragraph. I know that you didn't mean to hurt me when you fill in the blank. You did whatever you did, some hurtful thing. You're writing to yourself now. I know you didn't mean to hurt me, and I forgive you.
Right.
Then write another letter. Pick someone that has hurt you, has done some hurtful thing to you. Write them a letter. Dear person, I've been meaning to write to you for some time. How are you? I know that when you betrayed me, cheated on me, really used me as a doormat, you didn't mean to. I don't know what was going on with you, but you didn't mean to. I was hurt, but I forgive you. The letter's over. Then do whatever you want to do with the letter. Rip it up, flush it down the toilet, put it down the garbage disposal, burn it, whatever you want to do. But the point is you're releasing because you are stuck. If you are not forgiving yourself or someone for something, you're
Right.
creating another trauma.
So what do you do if somebody just can't do it?
They're not ready. They're just not ready to do it. And so I don't abandon them and say, go home. I say, you're not ready. And I can totally understand that. Let's talk, if you'd like to, about something that would help you be ready for that.
Yeah.
And
People have a hard time getting to forgiveness.
absolutely. That forgiveness word, boy, it's not a popular subject. I once did a summit on forgiveness, and it was the first thing I started out with. I smiled and I said, I've been asked to speak about forgiveness, but it's really not a popular subject. So that, loosened everyone up. But it's so essential to forgive. We've all been hurt. We've all been wronged, from the littlest thing to the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But all you're doing is contributing to your own dis-ease, your own not so well-being by not forgiving yourself and by not forgiving someone else. Just get rid of it, release it.
Very good.
So that's a strong formula for living an empowered life.
So can you give me any examples of somebody that you helped with something like that and what showed up for them?
Yes. Again, I deal mostly with women, and most of their trauma is because they are stuck from the inside out, as you put it, and as I speak it. It's an inside job. You want to get unstuck. You want to live the life that you were to desire, start within. So I can remember not just one, several women that were living in toxic, unhealthy relationships, whether it was a marriage or it was partnership. And they just couldn't get unstuck. And and that segued off to other relationships. They were people pleasers because, here I am living in this toxic, unhealthy relationship. Okay, I don't really want to do anything about it. So now I am going to please everyone around, everyone that surrounds me and affects me, and that I affect and surround, because that's where I'm getting my sense of self. That's where I'm getting something good coming back to me, because it's certainly not coming from this significant relationship. that I have. And I can tell you, and I think of one just last week, broke free from that with a number of exercises. And she is now no longer a people pleaser, no longer living in that situation that she was in. She's enjoying her life. She's enjoying great health where she didn't have it. And she's enjoying some new adventures along with it.
Very good. Well, it does. It makes a difference, right? So if they can't do that, then they just can continue to be in the issue that they're dealing with.
Until someone says enough is enough.
Right.
I not only enough is enough, but I'm enough not being here in this type of situation and subjecting myself to much less than I deserve, than I am entitled to. When people have a poor self-image, they're going to grab wherever they can to highlight, to feel better about themselves.
And what I find is when people get into people pleasing or those kinds of things, it's all coming from a lack of safety. You see it all the time, especially with children. They'll do whatever they can do to keep their parent happy, even an abusive parent.
Absolutely.
Because they're trying to stay safe and they can't stand up. You got a child, they have no chance of standing up to an adult. They can't fight and they can't flight. A lot of times they freeze. And that's what I see a lot of times in women is a freeze because they can't get out of their own way. They just can't. They can't move. They become paralyzed.
And they stay in those situations, whether it's with a significant other or whether it's people that they're surrounding themselves with. And oftentimes, unfortunately, leads to addiction for them.
Yeah. We deal a lot with addiction with people. That's where it'll show up.
That's where it shows up.
Well, very good. I like the alchemy idea because it's that science, right? I love the fact that you can mix stuff up, right? And change it, no matter what you can ingest in your body, anything, too much of anything can kill you, right? Even water, right? So you need to be able to dilute it to some degree, maybe not dilute water, but you still may have to dilute something. Otherwise, it will overwhelm your system. So the alchemy idea, I like the idea of that. That makes a lot of sense. So congratulations on that idea. I think I like that.
It's been years of taking my sorrows and saying, oh, I'm going to make this work. I am not going under any bus. That's it. Yep. And because of that, I am able to be that example for others.
Right.
I got plenty of credentials, believe me, but you know what? My life is the biggest credential.
Yep.
And to go within, and people can do that.
Sure. Everybody's capable of it.
Yeah. It's just choice.
Very good. Well, I know you said you also wanted to leave people with some gifts and blessings. Can you tell me what you would do with that?
Yes. What I would leave our audience, our viewers, each other with today. First of all, understand that life is precious. Life is like ice cream. Enjoy it before it melts.
Yep. I like that.
You're the main character in your own life. You, yourself, you're the main character in your life. Learn to spend time with yourself. Learn to understand that you are the most important person in your life. You. We all have children. I have grandchildren. They're great. But, I'm 65 now. I learned, okay, I'm the most important person. And it's okay to be the most important person. I'm the main character in my life.
Right.
And finally, wherever we go, we take ourselves. Understand that. There's no escaping from oneself. Wherever we go, we take ourselves. So enjoy yourself and have some adventures.
You can try leaving yourself behind, but they'll bring you back. They'll drop you off somewhere.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed the talk. Very interesting. Congratulations on what you're doing. And I love that you're helping a lot of women. Women are really looking for that kind of guidance. So congratulations on that. And thank you everybody for listening to another episode of You Must Be Out of Your Mind. And there it is.